Life is too short. So you get up in the morning, you scramble to get your kids to school or rush to the gym. Try and see if you can get breakfast. If not, grab a cup of coffee, rush to work, scramble through the day between your MRCs, RDMs, and everything else. Get out in the evening, stressed out, get back home, pop something in the microwave, get back to bed. Right? Well, stop. Stop. Take a deep breath and smell the flowers. Literally, take a deep breath. Life is too short, which is exactly why you want to take charge of your life. None of us, not me, not you, knows how much longer we've got here. I don't know if I take the next breath. Make the most of it. I have yet to meet somebody on whose grave it's written, this guy spent 34 years, 16 hours a day, got so many awards, and had a very fulfilling life. All right? That doesn't mean you stop working, guys. Keep working for the Digital Achievement Awards and everything else. At no point in time have I ever stopped from making sure that you take care of whatever it is you need to do. The only thing is, it doesn't need to incorporate any kind of stress. Once you learn to get inside yourself, once you learn to tap into that child within you, you'll have unlimited energy. You can put in 20-hour days. They don't all have to be at work. You can actually put in 20-hour days, never get tired, never fall sick, and be able to do just about everything from being orders of magnitude more productive at work. In your personal goals and ambitions, whether you choose to do an Ironman, yes, you can get there. It doesn't matter who you are, how old you are, or other things you may want to do in life. So the question then is, what is the power of the mind? When I talk of the mind, it is not, everybody points towards their head. This is not where the mind is. This is where the brain is. This is the rational thought process. This is the intellect. And for most of us, engineers, scientists, and everybody that works in the industry, this is what does a lot of our damage. This is what helps us to rationalize everything. It's not my problem, it's in my genes. There is no such things, guys. I'll hold back on that. I don't want you, if you guys are taking medication, don't stop the medication. I don't want to get sued. But seriously, past the genes. You can actually go in. When I say there is no such thing as stress, no such thing as back pain, there is no such thing as diabetes, I mean it. I come from a family history. I mean, I shouldn't have, I'm over 50. I shouldn't have lived past being a kid. On my dad's side, for generations, my dad, my granddad, who was a doctor, everybody had extreme diabetes. They all succumbed to it very early. On my mom's side, it's always been heart disease. Between heart disease, cancer, diabetes, if you talk of genes, which is what I was blessed with, there was very little I could do about it. And as a child, my name, nobody called me by my name. For those of you that have kids, they come from school and they tell about the ragging, the bullying and everything. Kids can be cruel. I was never called by my name. I was the four-eyed geek and I was called a football because I was as fat as I was tall. I was blessed with genes. Well, they don't exist. The day you decide, again, not with the intellect, not with the brain, deep down levels of consciousness inside you is the real you. As soon as you get in touch with yourself and change what exists there, the world around you, including yourself, your physical form, your propensity for disease or anything else changes along with it, as does the perception of everybody else around you. There is no physical reality to this world. It's all in your mind. Mind as in levels of consciousness inside you. Therein, that place is where that little child is, that we've kept hidden for years, might have been for centuries. And we cover it up real well because we continue to operate at a very superficial level using our intellect. So what do you do and what does it mean to get in touch with the mind? The first, and I don't want to trivialize, it's not as simple as it sounds. It's getting past our ego. It is the ego that drives me to think that I do well. It is my ego that gets me to believe that I earn and that I support my family. It is my ego that gets me to believe that I can go from being a football to being an extreme sport athlete. It has nothing to do with me. The force exists around us and within us. Once you start channeling this energy, once you start tapping into the force, the whole world is available to you. At no point in time should we get to the point where we start thinking the force is ours. It isn't. It exists. It's always been there. It grows with the universe. But once you channel into that energy, you can do just about anything you want. So how do you get there? There are many, many programs, many classes, many courses available on meditation in and around the Bay Area and around the world. The thing I'm going to talk about is slightly different. We'll talk about techniques in meditation. But a lot of the meditative techniques and classes get us to a feeling of nothingness where you can blank out your mind, but then there is silence, there's nothingness. I'm going to throw out something that I want you to keep at the back of your mind. We'll come back to that in the end. I want you to get beyond that. You do need to get to a point where you can blank out all the thoughts that pervade your intellect. But beyond that, you also need to get in touch with your consciousness, with that child within you. Because from there, you will actually take advantage of everything in terms of your personal growth, in terms of getting your health together, your life together, and everything else that so far you thought was unachievable. Anything you thought was impossible. Keep in mind one thing. Now just another thing I'm throwing out, but for me, it holds back to the time when I was a kid. For those of you that have seen Harry Potter movies and seen the four houses out there, Gryffindor and everybody else, well, when I went to a Christian school when I was a kid. It's a long time ago, 40, 45 years back. But our house motto was, the impossible is possible. And it stuck in my head forever. It stuck at the intellect level at that point, that the impossible is possible. But we did make it happen even as a teenager, as a 14, 15-year-old, where we had consistently come last for 10 years. Ever since I joined the school, we'd been the last placed house. Yet before we left, my final 2 years in school, we placed first, cleaning out the whole stage, from marching to athletics to debates to elocution. Because we started believing in it. Believing not with the brain, not with the intellect, but levels inside. Actually getting to believe that anything you thought was feasible. It didn't happen because of the education in school. It happened because 3, 4, 5 years before that, I had started learning to go inside myself, started learning to meditate. And it wasn't just that it affected me, it affected everybody around me. You'll be amazed when you learn to de-stress yourselves. It's not just yourself that you'll be de-stressing. You will actually end up de-stressing your workers, people you come in contact with, and everybody else around you, including the checkout girl at the grocery store. Every place you go to, you will be de-stressing people around you, because that is the persona you'll exemplify. That is the person you'll reflect, and those are the vibrations you'll go out with. Opportunity gets, all the air will rush in, the molecules rush in. That's exactly what happens with our brains. The moment you try and sit down, you try and relax, you try and blank out, exclude all thoughts, everything comes rushing in a million times more. It's not that the thoughts were not there. They were always there. It's just that you are now in a position to actually recognize the fact that they're impinging on you. So as a first step, and that's where a lot of the meditation, I know the Art of Living certainly, and some of the other techniques they focus, you can start out not so much by eliminating all of them, although I do want you to get past it, but just in terms of focusing on just one thought, one subject, or just one item at a time. You haven't eliminated, you haven't blanked out your mind, but by virtue of the fact that you have just one, it's now excluding the hundreds of thousands and myriads of thoughts that happen. Now, one of the techniques that's very commonly and very popularly used is just focusing on the breath. For most of us, we've forgotten even how to breathe. How many of you have children? Okay, a fair number. Have you ever seen your child breathe? It's straight from the abdomen. The breath comes in all the way to the abdomen, out again. That is normal. For most of us, we breathe till here. Somebody cuts in front of us on the expressway on the way to work, the breath stops till here. Somebody points a finger at us, the breathing is still here, and very soon our knuckles tighten around the steering wheel, we turn red, and we've forgotten to breathe. Seriously, learn to breathe. It's the life-giving force. Keep in mind, the day we stop breathing, we cease to exist. We exist so long as we are taking in that life-giving force. Which is why, in some ways, it's actually very compelling to use that as a form. You can use other things. You can use a candle for focus. You can use a light. You can use a positive memory from your youth. You can use anything that would help you retain a non-negative focus, either neutral or positive. But breathing is very natural. And if you can actually learn to take in a breath, feel that life-giving force, go down to the very depths of your being, and as you exhale, feel the toxics leave your body. Initially, you're still using the brain to think about it. You're breathing in the life-giving force, you're breathing in purity, and you're breathing out toxics. After a while, that will become natural, and you'll progress to the next level, which is focusing on the energy that actually does permeate the universe and our beings. You start taking that in, and that's not going in with the breath, even though the simulation, and we get a chance, we'll do it. Unfortunately, we don't have yoga mats and a place to do it, but we will nonetheless try a brief simulation. You get to the point where you actually start feeling energy coming into the third eye point, which is basically a point between your eyebrows, just above there in the forehead. And you feel the energy flow, and you feel this force going in and pervading your being. And as it goes out, it cleanses your being with it. It is just a technique, no more than that. This is not the end goal. Yoga is not the end goal. Breathing is not the end goal. It's a technique to help calm you down. Let's for a moment talk about, we'll come to maybe practice for a few minutes, but let's talk about the 4 cornerstones, the way I've developed them, and I've been teaching this over 30 years. The basis of the pyramid is meditation, which is why I spend a lot of time talking about meditation as a means of channeling your energy. Then, to help you sit for longer periods, relax, because initially you may not be able to blank out the mind. The second cornerstone that assists in the meditation is yoga. Now, yoga can be something as simple as stretching, just so that your limbs become more supple. There is less stress induced, so you can sit for longer periods. Third, exercise. Exercise as an endurance, as in building your strength. 2 slightly different things. But in order for you to be able to sit for longer periods, and when you get to the point where you can sit for 20, 30 minutes, then 45, then 60 minutes, then 90 minutes, what you don't want is when you're having a beautiful experience, you're no longer, quote unquote, in the world or the universe or the place as we know it, and your back starts hurting, you'll be transported back immediately simply because of a physical limitation. By the time you get to the point, you also want to have developed your physical body to the point where you can sit for extended periods So that should not be the factor that limits you from gaining the experience you can. And the fourth cornerstone, meditation, yoga, exercise, and I talk about diet. When I say diet, a lot of the people that know me here, I never refer to cutting back on food or skimping on calories. I have consistently been known to put away 10 to 20,000 calories a day. And again, that's a different workshop altogether, but you can eat all you want. So long as you're centered, it won't affect you. You can do whatever you want. If you enjoy food, by all means enjoy it. That's not what's causing you to put on weight, no more than a lot of the other things, induced diabetes or back pain or anything else. But if you take these four cornerstones and build each on top of the other, you can actually get yourself to the point where in a very short amount of time, you can start experiencing a lot of energy, things you haven't even thought possible. There are people in this room who've actually been to extended retreats, 3-day workshops, who, I don't want to take names here unless they choose to speak later in the session themselves, who've gone from, maybe he will talk to you later or she will talk, but have gone from being extremely stressed out, having piled on mounds and mounds of pressure on themselves for 55 years, and then what seems like magic in a short period of 3 to 5 weeks have gone from being this totally stressed out, totally burnt out person to having literally been reborn and saying, for the first time, I am living. For the first time, I am alive. And it's not because they cut back on their work. They were actually, according to their manager, who actually caught me in the hallway and said, I don't know what's happened to this guy, but he's an order of magnitude more productive. But the difference is, instead of being one of the most stressed out managers we had in the division, he's now a yippee yahoo kid who goes up and down the corridors just, yodeling along the way. It's the same person. The difference between people that get there and people that don't is actually very, very small. It's the small changes we make in our lives. It's the small effort we make when we decide, okay, I will make the effort. It's worth my life. The most common excuse I get, we'll talk about the excuses, is I don't have time. Well, if we don't have the time, I started the talk with life is too short. If you don't have the time, seriously think about getting up just 15 minutes earlier. Just 15 minutes, whatever your schedule is like, which is not a big thing. Get up just 15 minutes earlier, but that time is not to be taken by anything else. Spend that time in quiet meditation and quiet reflection. In a very short amount of time, you'll realize you've got more than your 15 minutes back. As some people in this audience figured out that instead of now needing 7-8 hours of sleep, and even then not being rested, these same people now say they need 3 to 5 hours of sleep, and they have a lot more energy. They are far more rested after 3 hours than they used to be after 7-8 hours, for the first 3, 4, 5 decades of their lives. Give yourself that opportunity. Beyond that, in terms of excuses, it's not just that we don't have the time, it's what we do with it. For most of us, if we just took away the remote control, we'd have plenty of time at home. Get the family together and decide you're all going to sit down and get in touch with yourselves. It's not that hard. And it's not that kids don't want to do it. They love to do it once they figure out how compelling it is and if you can make it fun for them. Even the healthful eating. When I talk of power eating, I glossed over it, then moved on to 4 cornerstones. Most of the food we have is so badly processed that there is very little nutrients. There's very little nutritional value left in them. If you consume power foods, first of all, you will not experience these highs and lows through the day. Those power foods will give you all the energy you need forever. And you can actually make it delicious. I have 3 kids, and they all love the smoothies, the juices, everything. You'd think kids don't go around having carrots and apple and ginger and stuff. Well, they love it. If I can give them a ginger popper, they take it over soda. That should give you an idea. I mean, they'd love to have their Coke and Sprite and everything. But these are teenagers who would rather have it. You've got to make it fun. You've got to make sure it's enjoyable. Just like at work. I mean, I often tell my people, I hope none of my executives here are listening to me. I often tell my people at work, if you're not having fun, if you're not enjoying it, guys, let me know. I'll help you find another job, inside or outside Intel. If you're not having fun, it's not going to work. If it's anything that induces stress, by definition will cause you to fail. It's like when people say, well, I have this habit of getting up in the morning. I don't have energy by 5 o'clock. I get up in the morning, I have a cup of tea, cup of coffee, and I set out for work. And then I'm feeling extremely drowsy and sleepy at 2 o'clock because I had a big lunch. The lunch has nothing to do with you being drowsy. You can have as big a lunch as you want. Trust me, I put away 48 fried tacos for lunch one day. I mean, I didn't eat between lunch and dinner, right? I skipped the afternoon snack. But I have put away a lot of food, and that's not what causes the drowsiness. The drowsiness is a result of the fact that you're low on energy. You eat the night before, you skimp on breakfast. By the time it gets to be noon, your body is basically weak. You have nothing left to eat. You have lunch, but that lunch will give you energy by around 5 or 6 o'clock. The reason you're feeling sluggish in the afternoon is not because you had a big meal, but because you're running on empty. You wouldn't do that with your car. You wouldn't do that with a plane, certainly. 30,000 feet above the ground. Don't do it with yourselves. Nourish your system for energy. It'll help. So long as you have an even keel, it'll help you meditate better. Everything else I talk about in terms of power eating, in terms of exercise, in terms of yoga, has one and one purpose only, at least in my life it has over the last 35 years, which is to be able to sit and meditate for longer periods, or not even the length of time, but to not have these ups and downs or these spikes, so I can quietly, calmly go inside myself and experience, getting to be with the person there, the little child. Now here's something I'm going to throw out, and some of you will get to experience it. Whether you do it in 5 weeks or 50 years, I do not know. I've often had people ask me that question. I have had people that have totally transformed, at least a couple people that have transformed in less than 6 weeks, and then there are people that might take 50 years. It all depends on where you are in your journey, how long you've let your brain defray, how much you've channeled it versus letting it run all over the map. The one thing I will say for certain, over 3 decades of having discussed, worked with people, is you may not experience the light, but you'll certainly experience a lot of growth. You'll experience a lot of sense of calm. You'll experience a lot of energy. And you'll certainly be a lot happier and a lot healthier. Before I go on, I can literally talk on this for days and weeks on end. I've done 10-day workshops, I've done 2 days, and I will talk for hours. I prefer this to be interactive, so at any point in time, in fact, I'll take a brief 5-second pause. If you have questions, I'd rather talk directly to what might be, what your question is, because I can talk about the rest of the program in the light of any questions you might have. What did I do with my bottle of water? I thought I put it right here. No.
It's over there. It's right over by the table. It's over the
Yeah.
Describe what you mean about the little child again.
Okay. So, this body is not me. This is just a temporary shelter. This is no more than a house, just like I buy a house today, I sell it. Well, in this case, I said, let me see, I trade it in and move on somewhere else. Similarly, when I talk about the little child within myself, I'm alluding to the fact that there is, within each of us, what's keeping us alive. Just like you have, I don't know if you read The Soul of a New Machine, 5th generation. Just like whether you take a robot, you take a car with an engine, you take anything, there's something that drives it. It's not the physical external appearance, it's not the metal around it, but there's something driving it. When I talk about the child within, I'm referring to the consciousness that exists within us that enables us to do things, that helps us make the call, even beyond the intellect. How many of you, when we talk of doing things at a gut level, and I've literally done that even at work, I make all my decisions on a gut. I mean, I'll put the rationalization later, I'll figure out how to rationalize it, but that's after the fact. All my decisions, personal, professional, are based on a gut call. And that gut is not some airy-fairy mechanism. That's the real you. And the gut, should you choose to get in touch when I talk about the little child within, is closer in contact with reality, what little reality exists in this world, than we'll ever be with this intellect. Because this intellect is based on trials and tribulations I've encountered through life as I grew up. What's deep inside me is not contaminated, is not confused with all the experiences I go through. If I'm constantly berated, the normal reaction for me, using my intellect, is to react and respond to it. The child within me does not do that. Which is why when you get past this, it's getting in touch with the real you, if you don't want to call it the child. Here's the other interesting part to it. When I said there's no such thing as diabetes or back pain or stress, the world outside as we know it is nothing but a mirror image of what exists inside. There's that microcosm within us. You change that image, you change the reality, you change the world around you. Not just your perception from an intellectual standpoint. But earlier when I was talking about when you de-stress yourself, you de-stress all the people you come in contact with. When you change that image inside you, when that image changes, when you polish, when you remove whatever dust may have settled on it, it radiates and affects the people around. With the result, the world as you know it, the reality as you know it changes. There's no other way to change it. We use a lot of quote-unquote techniques based on what I refer to as trying to be extra smart. Well, if I can pull one over this guy's eyes, I can get away with this or that. Try getting away from that and trying to use this technique. You polish this image inside you, and it's amazing. The world outside, which is nothing more than a mirror image, will change. It's not your perception of it that changes, it actually changes. Which is why things like back pain and diabetes and flus and everything go away. First of all, you won't get subjected to them, but even if let's say you do come down with a cold, it doesn't have to last a week. You can sit down, go, and it can disappear in 2 hours. Which is why I have a great time with doctors. I mean, I've got 3 kids, and the wife will take my kids to the doctors, which I think is a good thing. I mean, if you're not able to get in touch, please take the medication. Don't run away from medication. It's a good thing to do. But that's not what's going to cure you. I mean, you're cured because you think you're being cured. In reality, you can cut short the cycle by hours, days, weeks. It's just a number. It has no connotation. So that's what when I refer to the child inside, that's what I'm referring to. Yes?
How does mind relate to the terms like the subconscious and superconscious?
Okay. Oh boy, frankly, I'll tell you, I'm not a very well-read person. Everything I've done or taught over the last 35 years has come from within me. I have not read a book on the subject, so I'm going to throw out what real time I come up with. I have not been to any meditation. I'm sorry?
Could you repeat the question?
Okay, sorry. His question was, how does the mind, as I describe it, relate to the subconscious or the superconscious? So everything I say, you can bounce it off what you know, of what you might have read. Like I said, I have not ever attended a retreat or been to a meditation or anything or read any books on the subject. From my way of thinking and what little I've gleaned from inside myself, the subconscious, in some ways not very different from the superconscious, different terms used for it, is not very different from the inner mind or the inner child, from what I understand of it. It's just something that exists, not at when we say conscious level, it's like, your memory versus something that you file away on a hard disk drive. It's something that exists. It's there as part of all the repertoire, everything that you've experienced, but it's not something that you're constantly pinging or constantly taking advantage of. What the mind does, as opposed, so the subconscious versus the conscious is that when I allude to the mind actually can bridge the gap along all these. Time becomes a continuum. There is no significance. You can go back in the past, you can go out into the future, which is why when I say rely on your gut, you want to figure out what you want to be doing 6 months, 12 months from today, or where you think the industry is headed vis-a-vis what the reports say. Tap into your gut. There is no concept going back 50 years, 100 years, 200 years to previous lives, moving forward, going along this continuum. That's where the subconscious, which existed, and the conscious, you can actually be simultaneously in both the realms. Because that's where the mind is actually capable of holding information, probably more than this entire universe put together. I mean, you take all the volumes of the Encyclopedia Britannica, and you can probably have more information there. My experience with this has been, and certainly, like I said, I don't know what others say about it. Just like for most of us, you go through school, you go through 5 years, 4 years in college, and you get a master's, then we head to our PhD, we do our MBAs. I spent the better part of 24 years going and getting advanced degrees. Just like that, once you start tapping into your energy source and start experiencing that quiet, that calm, that state of equipoise within yourself, once you start experiencing that, there's hundreds of classes beyond that. That's not where it ends, that's where the journey starts. Once you start experiencing it, there's myriads and myriads of classes. The amazing part is the first time, quote unquote, I experienced something, or I saw, or I went on to a different realm, I was amazed. I said, wow, this is great. And then you have your second experience and third, and you say, wow, I know so much. After that, for the next 25 years, with each passing day, and I sit down each morning. I don't think I've missed a day in 30 years. I don't care whether I'm on a plane, I'm in Tokyo, I'm in Beijing, Singapore, it doesn't matter. But with each passing day, I have come to just one realization. The more I saw, the more I experienced, the deeper I went inside, I realized how little I knew. So about 15, 20 years ago, I finally, just came to terms, there was no way out with the fact that what I knew was so infinitesimally small. And with each experience, I realized I know less and less and less and less. That's how vast this is. That's how huge this is. It's the journey. You will never find the end. At least I don't think it's possible, because with each day, each foray into this, you'll actually realize that it's bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The only thing I can say is it's beautiful. It's bliss beyond anything you can imagine. If I was to put it in perspective, take away everything I've ever gotten. Straight A grader in my MBA program, valedictorian, done everything, played on 5 teams, take away all the division awards, and achievement award, take away everything. All those put together don't compare with one moment's of experience on any given morning when you are in that state of calm and equipoise, when you are one with the force, when you are one with creation, when you're one with the energy. In those moments, please do not ever, because some of you might get there very fast, please do not perform miracles. But you can at that point in time do anything you wish to do. You can reach out and touch somebody 3,000 miles away. You can actually project energy and heal somebody else. Do not use your conscious mind or your intellect to perform miracles. 2 things happen. Number 1, that's our ego coming into play. The moment the ego comes in, the fall is very, very rapid. And it's very painful, because when you can experience that moment of joy, that bliss, that satisfaction, that calm, that equipoise, and you can't experience it the next evening or the day after that, you feel lost, and it can take a while before you get back. Do not perform miracles. Do not think with the brain. Especially, when we've got family members around, there's always this desire to help. let nature take its course. You can guide them, you can help them, but each one of us has to learn and grow within. First part is the ego. The second is none of us consciously should be changing the course of history. Now, having said that, there will be times where without consciously thinking about it, you will end up doing it. And that is okay. That is normal. Because that is the force, the creator, the creation, all the things around you that if you learn to flow with it, there are times you will do it. You will. Not of your own volition, not because you thought you want to do it, but it will happen when the time is right for the other individual and the other person is accepting. It will happen. And for those of you that want, we can talk about it afterwards. But I just have to throw this word of caution because I have had a couple of people that start experiencing very rapidly. While it's very beautiful, be careful you don't get caught up in it. Only because it's not yours. It's always been there. The energy field is there. The force is there. It's always been there. It will always be there. You can flow with it. You can tap into it. But at no point in time should we start letting our egos get in the way and thinking, I can do this. Here's what I can do. Look at the power I have. And anytime you perform a miracle, that's what the word will perceive. And when the word perceives it, well-meaning friends and family will start putting you up on a pedestal. And there's a problem. Yes?
Can you comment about spirituality and the experience you're talking about?
Okay, so the question was commenting about spirituality and how it compares to what I'm talking about. I actually think there is very little difference or no difference at all. I have generally stayed away from talking about spirituality only because it's taken on a negative connotation for a lot of people. When I talk about the energy field, when I talk about the force, when I talk about the vibrations, I'm talking about nothing different. When I say the creative force, I'm talking about creation, the creator, and everything else around us. In my mind, there is no difference between the two. If you start experiencing it, you'll see it for yourself. I stay away from any talk, any conversation of spirituality or religion because it invokes a reaction for some people. And I don't know who shows up in a workshop or a retreat. They come from all countries, they come from all religions. And what I don't want is for someone to shut themselves off before they've had an opportunity to experience it. Once they've experienced it, I have had people come in afterwards and say, here's what you were talking about. Had you started with this, I would probably not have been open for the next few days at the retreat. But once they've experienced, they start experiencing energy and in different manifestations of it, whether it's the light or any other form. Then they come to terms with the fact that it is the same thing. There was no question.
Is it required to intrinsically believe in what is suggested in order to be able to practice and gain the benefit?
There is no belief in anything. First, you've got to believe in yourself. Now, I will go out on a limb and say something. Once you start believing in yourself and you start exercising or getting in touch with yourself, once you experience that calm, that voice, that joy, and once you get in touch, you will realize that what's inside you is no different. There will come a point when you'll see the connectedness between what's inside you and the person next to you, and the plant, and the tree, and the dog, and the cat next door. And very soon, you'll see all this connectedness, this whole maze. You'll realize you are not in isolation. You're connected with